Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of Zodipaws and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Hello and welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and I am looking forward to talking with our guest today. Lisa Beggio has worked for the Columbia Humane Society in St. Helens, Oregon for almost 28 years. She's dedicated to the care of animals and even took 6 months away to further her knowledge in dog training, but was called back to the Humane Society. And she's also a level 2 certified animal control officer, and she has a diploma in animal science. And if you weren't yet convinced of her passion and commitment to the field, she is a certified dog trainer and holds a certification as a nonprofit executive director. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a part of this discussion about resilience.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. Well, you are a wealth of knowledge, I'm sure, just not only from your 28 years of experience with the Humane Society, but all that education that you, education and training that you bring to the field. So I'm excited to kind of really hear your perspective on things.
Never have too much training.
I agree. I'm a sucker for a good course and a certification. Yeah. It's very similar in the therapy world. Like we have to get our continuing education credits, but you know, field's always evolving. People are evolving all the time. So
yep. It's a different world than it was 27 years ago when I started. So the science behind sheltering is way different than it was. So it's very important that you stay up on best practices and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Well, why don't you start us off today just by giving us a little bit of an introduction to Columbia Humane Society, kind of letting us know what's going on in that world. And then also, just tell me a little bit about that journey over the last 28 years, what that's been like for you, how you ultimately got where you are.
So we're a really small shelter in rural Oregon. We're in Columbia County, which is 720 square miles. We're the only humane society in Columbia County. There is a few other cat rescues, thank God, that have popped up over the past couple of years that are helping us pick up the slack. We do share a building with animal control. And so we work congruently together. Even though they are government funded, we are completely a nonprofit, so we're privately funded. But we are basically their main backup for all of their dogs, stuff like that. We help them on big cases if they need help, stuff like that. I basically started at the shelter 20 some years ago as a volunteer. I came in the door one day, I was 21, 22 years old and knew nothing really about dogs. It was like, I think I'd like to volunteer. So I started volunteering every day, started walking dogs, really knew nothing about dogs. I mean, I'd had dogs on the farm when I was a kid, but knew nothing really about it. And I didn't even really realize that these kind of places exist because I had moved here from Canada, and where I lived in Canada, like these weren't a thing. And so I started working as a volunteer. Eventually they're like, hey, would you maybe like a job? And I was like, yeah, actually I am looking for a job. So I started as a part-time job, just cleaning kennels, stuff like that. And I kind of just worked my way through. Most of my experience has been hands-on experience besides the classes that I've taken and courses and stuff that I have taken. I started working for animal control at the same time I was working for the Humane Society because they needed a kennel person as well too. Basically kind of developed their initial program because they had no adoption programs or anything like that. And so I developed all those programs. And then one day we kind of hit a roadblock and we did a seizure of 52 cats. And we pulled a random 8 out of those cats and they all tested positive for FELV and FIV. And so we decided that for resources and everything like that, because we don't have infinite resources, we needed to put all those cats to sleep. And so we did that. And I was just like, this is kind of rough. And so at that time, I had also been working part time at a boarding and training facility as well too. And the opportunity had arisen where they were like, "Hey, would you come and work full time for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm in a place where I need to." So I left for 6 months and I went training retrievers full time. And then the animal control officer showed up one day at the boarding and training facility, and he's like, "You need to come back to work." He's like, "We need you to come back." So I was like, okay. It was kind of right around the time recession was starting to hit. So the training world was getting kind of a little bit like, oh, I don't know if financially this is going to be a good, thing still and stuff. So I went back working part time. Um, and then just over the time, I worked part time at vets while I've been working at the shelter and stuff as well too. And then I just started full time at the shelter in 2013. I was back at the shelter full time, not working 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, stuff like that. And then just have kind of worked my way through. I was the animal welfare manager for a while for the Humane Society. And then the previous executive director got removed from the position, and the board of directors at that time were like, "Will you take the position?" And I said, "No, I won't." I said, "I don't want that position. I don't think I would do well at it." So I fought them for like 8 months until finally they convinced me to take the position. And I've been the executive director ever since 2016. I think 2016, I became the executive director. We're really small. We only have a staff of 3. There's myself, which is full time, and I have 2 part time kennel workers. And I have a handful of volunteers, probably about 10 to 15 now, that give me anywhere from 55 to 60 hours of volunteer time in the shelter a week. And then I have a slew of fosters as well too that help us on the backside, that do stuff as well on the backside. So we're successful because of those people. And because those people are willing to commit to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes when I hear the word Humane Society, I kind of imagine it being a slightly bigger organization, but
Yes. Yeah.
I suppose especially in rural communities, they probably do tend to be smaller.
Yeah, like everybody assumes because we are a humane society, like, oh, you guys get money from the Humane Society of the United States. None of us are tied together. We're all separate. Like, you could become your own humane society. You could become Jolene's Banana Slug Humane Society if you wanted to. There's no mark on that name.
Mhm.
And so we have talked about, because of the stigma that comes with being a humane society, rebranding just to kind of get away from that, because
Mhm.
there's the expectation that we should have all these programs in place that we financially can't have in place. We are working to try to develop some better programs, but it all takes resources and time and space and stuff like that. So we have kind of our own little niches, though. Like, we have a queen program, and we're one of the only shelters that has this program, where if your mama cat has kittens, you give us all the kittens. We'll pay to have your mom cat spayed, vaccinated, microchipped, and give her back to you for free.
Hmm.
Our thought behind that is if we can get those kittens off the streets, get them spayed and neutered, and get them into homes, maybe we can kind of make an impact. And then we can get those mama cats fixed. They're never having babies again. Usually it typically turns into a home, though. They'll have 6 or 8 cats in the home. So we pull everybody into the program. We fix, microchip everybody, give back where it needs to give back, and stuff like that. So we have little programs like that. We offer community Spain or community vaccination clinics as well too, for low cost. That we had to cancel those programs, of course, during COVID and whatnot. But we do have little programs that we try to do with that. I'm working on trying to start a neuter clinic for the community, just for cats to start with. It is a dream of mine. I feel like I haven't left a legacy yet. And so I think that is what I'm going to be, is my legacy for when I do retire, which I'm years away from that happening. But I want to start building that legacy now, because I don't feel like I have done enough for the community.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting how, I think, especially in this field of animal rescue, sheltering, you guys give so much of your time and energy, but it's interesting to hear that you feel like you haven't done enough and that you
It
want
never feels like it's enough. Like, it never, like, to be honest with you. I mean, and I work usually anywhere from 50 to 60 hours a week, and I can go for times like no days off, stuff like that. But it's just that's what the job is. Like, that's just what it is. You have to do the work when the work is required of you, because unfortunately we're dealing with living, breathing things, and they need our attention now, not when, well, I'm tired. Like, they don't care if you're tired. They need the help now, and so we have to do the work now. And it just never feels like, every loss feels like, God, if I would have just tried a little harder, maybe that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, there's so much pressure and so much need.
There is. And then you have the outside people who don't understand it. And so they think like, oh my God, you're taking a day off. Like, oh, it must be nice to have a day off. Like, yeah, actually, it's really cool. Like, I did answer my emails this morning when I got up at 5 o'clock for my day off. And I always say we call them days off. Not actually days off. But yeah, it's an interesting field of work for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, you had said that over the last 27, 28 years that things have changed quite a bit. Can you reflect on that a little bit? Like what you've kind of noticed?
Oh, even just down to the cleaners that we use in our kennels now. When
Mm.
I first started, we used bleach and laundry detergent to clean our kennels. Now we have like we have kennel cleaners that can be used that the animals can lick and it doesn't hurt them. It's changed, it's revolutionized the way we do things. Even just more time effectiveness, so we can do more things for the animals because we're not spending so much time just cleaning their kennels.
Hmm.
When I first started, there was really no research or anything about, like, we sanitized everything every day. Now the research is like, that's a horrible idea to do to the animals that are in your care. Back then, we didn't know. We didn't know that was a thing. I mean, having the kennels open for public to walk through. We're one of the only, I think, 3 shelters in Oregon. Our kennels are shut down to the public, just because the research has shown us that having our kennels shut down to the public is so much better for the animals in our care. We shut ours down in 2017 for public walkthrough. We haven't had a case of kennel cough in our shelter since then. Just the amount of stress, are the more our animals are more resilient from that. It's been a hard sale though, and we were met with a lot of hate when we did it, because we were like the place that you came on Sunday afternoon if you had nothing to do with your kids, to entertain your kids. And we had to kind of drive home the science behind it. And we still have a lot of people that fight us, like, well, that just isn't good for me. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't about you, this is about the animals that are in our care, and we will die on the cross to protect them. So everything we need to do to protect them, that's what we're going to do. And a lot of people are like, you're never going to adopt out anybody like this. And I'm like, okay, well, there's this little company called Amazon. You don't see any of the products before you buy them. You look at some pictures and you order them, and they show up at your house.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to look at some pictures, put in an application, and I will come and spend the day with you when we do an adoption. So you can meet this animal and spend as much time as you want. That's all I'm asking, is that you don't meet them in their kennels. Because honestly, you're not getting any good information when you meet that dog in the kennel that's twirling around or biting at the fence because it doesn't want you near its kennel,
Hmm.
or hurled in the back because it's scared of all the strangers walking through. You're not getting any good information from that dog. Let me show you when they're in their play yard and they're happy and they're running around and, stuff like that. But it's been a long road scientifically convincing people that this model actually does work. We had the pleasure when COVID came to do the same thing with our cattery. We shut our cattery down as well for public walkthrough. And when COVID came out of it, we were just like, we're just not reopening that. We're just not going to do that anymore to our cats, because we found, we have less upper respiratory disease in the cattery. That's really weird. I wonder if it's because of the amount of stress that's in there. And that's absolutely what it's attributed to. So we don't have like any open hours for our shelter. Everything is done by appointment, because honestly, like, I can't afford to pay staff to stand around and wait for you to maybe show up and adopt a cat. If you're really serious about wanting to adopt a cat, we ask you put in an application, and I'll schedule a time with you to come in and meet everybody we have in our cattery, or with what we have in foster, or whatever it is. We just like to have it controlled so that we can be using our time more effectively, using our time to care for the animals, to do the training with the dogs that need to be done, stuff like that. We don't have just people standing around waiting for somebody to come in the door.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes a lot of sense. And I think when I first, heard that there are shelters that don't have walkthroughs, I did find myself like my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, I wonder how that works with the adoptions, but it makes a lot of sense to control for extra variables and be able to,
And
uh,
I believe we've had better adoptions because of it. Our return rate is like, I don't think we've had a dog returns in 6 years, honestly.
wow.
Um, and I think that's attributed to really screening and matching people with the right pets. And being sure that it's a good fit in the home. We also offer to, like, if you take a dog home from us, you're having trouble in the home, we'll come out to your house, spend some time with you. If we can't do it, I will pay a trainer to come in from outside the area or something like that if we need to, because we want to be sure everybody's comfortable with what's going on. We want forever homes. We don't want for right now homes.
Yeah.
Our goal is not to place the most animals in the world. I just want to change the world for the animals that I place. And I think I want it to be a great experience for my adopters too. There's a lot of heart wrenching stories about people who have adopted and it's just gone terribly wrong. And that's terrible for the industry. And I don't want my adopters to walk away and feel like that. That also too, at the same time though, is met with a lot of disdain because we do say no a lot to people.
Okay.
And so people do get mad because it's not like, no, they take it as it's like, you're not a good dog owner, which is not true. You're just not a good dog owner for that dog.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because we get caught up on like, people get caught up on like, oh, it's a pug. Like, well, this pug, like some of them are, not all pugs are the same, you know? And so just because you want a pug doesn't mean this pug might be a good pug, you know? And stuff like that. And we do a lot of the matching and stuff like that. So we do tell people no a lot of times, like this just isn't going to be a good fit, or, and stuff like that. And that does make people upset, obviously. But I mean, if you go look at our Google reviews, you can see it on there. There's like 114 negative reviews. And I can tell you all 114, I told those people no for one reason or another. And they are upset about that. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, but also, not surprising. I think, we're a species that wants what we want and we want it now. And,
yeah,
we don't like to hear no. We don't like to have boundaries a lot of times. So it
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you've touched on a lot, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but some maybe misconceptions that people have about either the work that you guys are doing specifically or about the rescue world. Like, is there something that you would really want people to hear or understand to clear something or some things up?
We don't just play with puppies and kittens all day. I think that's the number one thing that I hear is, well, it's not the number one thing. The number one thing that I hear that I take deeply personal is, I could never do your job because I love animals too much.
Hmm.
I don't hate them. I absolutely love them. I have devoted my life to them. I can do this work because I love them. And people will be like, kind of insinuate you're a bad person. And I'm like, that's super offensive because I have devoted, just about gave my life to this cause because I do love animals, and those animals need a voice. I understand this work isn't for everybody. I get that. It is hard. It is tough. You do cry. Your heart hurts. Your head hurts. Your body hurts. I get it. But it's not, we don't do this work because we're unfeeling people and because we don't love animals. Like, we love them to the highest extent. We love them enough that we are able to put them to sleep for them, and stuff like that. And then the other one always is too, is like, you guys just play with puppies and kittens all day. No, we play with puppy and kitten poop all day, is what we do. We are like, I am to the point now in my career where I can smell it and be like, oh, that has these kinds of worms, before we even need to take it to the vet to figure out what's going on. And so it's hard work. It's not for the lighthearted. It's hard physical work. And that's the hard part about finding staff members, is because they come in and they don't realize how physically hard it can be on your body and stuff like that. And so it's not just playing with puppies and kitties. And I want people to realize that.
Absolutely. Yeah. As comical as it is about, you know, becoming an expert in poop. Someone else was talking about that. We were having the interview, and she said, "You're going to get your masters in poopology, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Like, and we have competitions because we kind of have dark humor. Like, who can take the picture of the grossest poop? Like, what did you find? Like, and stuff like that. It's yeah, like it's not what everybody thinks it is.
Hmm.
As far as that goes, we suffer a ton of losses. Um, I don't know anybody who's in the sheltering world who doesn't treat the animals that are in their care like they're their own pets.
Hmm.
And if they are, they probably shouldn't be in the sheltering world, in the rescue world. Um, so like it is like adopting out one of my own pets. We just placed a dog 3 weeks ago. He'd been with me for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he just would never pick the right home. And he is just a plain old red nosed pipple,
Mm.
really nice guy. Came in when he was 7 months old. He had like a lot of arousal issues that we spent a ton of time working through. Turned out to be just a really, really nice dog. I honestly didn't ever think he would get placed because I'm like, you're probably institutionalized now, but like this is just going to be it. Family fell in love with him. I get just about daily updates about how wonderful he's doing in the home. He does have some anxiety stuff that we're working through, and the people are amazing that are working through with him. But I literally felt when that dog got in the car to leave, I was giving away one of my personal pets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I was happy for him, but sad for me because and the one thing kind of cool we do with our dogs too is we invite them back to board with us. So if their people go out of town, their dogs can come and stay with us because we know how to handle them. We know the things that they like and stuff, and they're comfortable with us. And so hopefully he's going to come back to board with us, just so he can come and hang out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like they're our personal pets. That's what it's like. It's like our personal pets that we're sending into your home. We're giving you guys a lot of trust when we give you one of our pets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you're touching on a lot of important topics, I think, especially as we kind of talk about the resiliency aspect of this work and what it takes to do it. Um, how would you define resiliency? Like, what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be resilient?
To be resilient is being able to take the hits, do the hard cases, but be able to step back up and still advocate for the ones that are in your care that need your care still. When you had asked me what has changed in the industry, I can tell you when I started years ago, compassion fatigue, the concern for the shelter workers was not a thing. When I first started, it was very frowned upon if we talked about our emotions, if we cried, if we, we're just like, I'm having a hard time with this. It was basically just like, you need to just shut up and do. Like, we don't talk about this. We don't. There was one point years ago back where we used to have counseling worked into our budget, and our board cut it
Mm.
out. And I was just like, wow, that's like a big hit. Like, that's a huge hit. And I think that now personally, it's one of my huge missions is we need to talk about these things as shelter workers. We're losing too many good people because we're not talking about the losses, and we're not talking about really how hard this is and how mean people are, and and stuff like that. And I think that unless we start doing that, we can't even begin to teach the young people that are coming to do this work how to be resilient. um some of us in the generation where I grew up was like, you just didn't talk about stuff. You just did, and you just kept going. You just put your head down and you just kept working hard. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
I cannot advocate enough. I think everybody who is in shelter work, and I don't care what you're doing in shelter work, you need a therapist. You need to check in with that therapist at least once a month, so you can talk about things with them. There's a wealth of information on like Facebook pages and groups that you can become a part of. You need to surround yourself with people who are like you, who do this work. Because also too, you need to be super conscious about traumatizing your family. Like,
Mm.
because sometimes not everybody can deal with what we deal with and see what we see and go back the next day. And I think that if you don't have that outlet to talk to people, you just aren't going to be able to be successful. And I think that's a big, huge part of the resilience. And we need to be standing on the, like, and I challenge any executive director who is out there, to do the work for your staff. Give your staff what they need so that they can be successful, so that your shelter can be successful, so your animals can be successful. If you don't give those people the outlet that they need, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I selfishly, I love that perspective, just because I'm in the field. But honestly, I think that it was a big motivation for me to just start these conversations, just because I I was seeing it. I follow a ton of social media um, for rescues and refuges, and yeah, there's just like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of grief
Mm-hmm.
involved,
Yep.
and
Yep.
a lot of isolation that can
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
And it's big emotional things. And sometimes it comes at dire consequences. Sometimes people lose their lives in it. And then, like you said, sometimes you just lose great people in the field just because they can't sustain it.
Yep.
Sometimes work is just not sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, which is totally understandable. I get it. I mean, not many people have been around for as many years as I have. Like, it's kind of a rare thing. I'm super stubborn though, so like that plays a huge part in it too. Like, I probably will never quit just on the simple fact like nobody's going to tell me I need to quit, sort of a situation. But I have had to have reality checks, and I have had to put myself in, in positions where I'm like, okay, you need to, like, you've got problems. I have a great support system around me. Just I have friends who I have met like through different like compassion fatigue classes that I have taken and stuff like that. Other shelter workers that we have just kind of clicked, and so we do check-ins with each other all the time, and and stuff like that. And it's just like I can't express it enough that you need to have those people.
Yeah,
You need to have those people.
absolutely. Yeah, I love the work that you're doing, and at least even just participating in conversation with other people
Mhm.
to normalize and validate the experiences that you're having.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing normal about what we see. Like, there's nothing normal. It's not how it's supposed to be. Even after 28 years, I'm still shockingly like, wow, really? You managed to pull that one off. That's pretty. And I've seen a lot. Like, I've seen a lot. And it's like, and so there's still times when I've always said though, I've always told myself if a case should come aboard that doesn't bother me, like if there's a time that it doesn't bother me, that's when I need to be done, because then I know that I'm no longer going to be effective in what I'm doing. They do need to emotionally affect you so we can make those changes.
Yeah,
And we can't make the changes unless we keep working at it.
right. Yeah, you don't want to become apathetic in.
Yes. Yeah. And just like, oh, well, this is just how it is. Like, no, like we need to actually stand up and be the voice for these animals. These animals don't have a voice.
Yeah,
They need people who advocate for them. They need people. I mean, we're kind of a little bit different because we do share a building with animal control. And as hard as we try to keep separate, you just get sucked in. It doesn't matter. Like, we see all of the same stuff that they see. We're really good about our facility, though, is we try not to social media put out the horrible stuff and traumatize the people. But there are times though where I'm like, you guys need a reality check of really what's going on here, because behind the scenes is not as pretty as what you guys think is happening. You get to see the end result of when that dog walks out the door and they're beautiful. But I can tell you the year and a half I put into getting him there was pretty hard, you know. But we try not to traumatize people vicariously by showing them the horrible, horrible things, because
mhm.
that's not productive either, I don't think, because it's not everybody can handle it.
That's right. That's very true. Yeah. So you talked about your own stubbornness, but also times when you've really uh, had to draw upon your own resilience, times when you know you need to take breaks or just even take a beat and reflect on what you're needing.
Mhm.
What are those signs? Like, how do you know when you're at that place where you really need to be reflective about what needs to happen for you next?
Um, I can feel the tension in my body when it starts to happen. I have a tendency to not sleep. I am not great about doing self care. And so that's something that I constantly have to be conscious of, to do those things for myself, because I always think when I'm doing the self-care, like, well, I could be doing this though. Like but I always have to remind myself, like, you can't give if you're empty, sort of a situation. And emotionally, sometimes I can just feel it emotionally. Like, I actually had a moment this week where a situation had arise, and I was like, I literally have no feeling for that person at this time. Like,
Mhm.
the person was crying, and all I could focus on was the fact that she was super impressed with the fact that her cat was a year old and had 2 litters of kittens already. Like, she was super proud of that, and I was like, that is nothing to be proud of.
Mhm.
Like, and that's all I could focus on in that situation. And she was coming from a domestic violence situation and stuff, and I was just like, whatever, like, that's not my concern. And then so I actually said to one of my rescue friends in New York, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And she's like, you're burnt out. That's what's wrong with you. And she's like, you're burnt out because those are the people that are causing problems for you. And I
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, you're probably right. I need to probably get some stuff in check here, and get things, some things figured out. I have a tendency to be way more compassionate for the animals than for the people all the time. It's just how I am.
Mhm.
Um, because I just think people should just do better. Like, you can just do better. There's resources if you ask for the help. You just have to kind of be persistent and ask for the help. And so a lot of times just I don't know, I just kind of know my body. I'm starting to learn things a little bit more, about myself, and educating myself too. Because, like I said, this journey of being resilient and the compassion fatigue and stuff just started a few years ago for me.
Mhm.
Uh, because it wasn't, like I said, it was never well talked about before. It was never something that was brought up. I've taken classes so I can become certified with in compassion fatigue, so I can help my staff. Like, that's because it's a big thing for me. Nobody ever did that for me,
Mhm.
because previous me, it was like, you just shut up and do. Like, that's it. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about the losses. We just keep moving. We just keep doing. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, when we think about resiliency, obviously, animals, you've seen firsthand how they can be resilient.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you have a particular animal story that you've kind of witnessed where it was actually kind of surprising how resilient this particular animal was?
Well, there was the first dog that started it all for me way back in the day. His name was Trooper. He came in. He was a 6-week old puppy. He was just off. There was something weird about him, and it turned out he had his chest was all disformed,
Hmm.
and at that time, they thought it was originally like a heart issue, whatnot, and so at that time the science wasn't really great. We didn't really know a bunch about this, what it was and stuff that he had. And so we did a bunch of fundraising. I ended up fostering him. It turned out his rib cage was pushing in on his heart and his lungs. And so when he was 13 weeks old, we had to go in and put pins in through his chest and stuff. So as he grew, the pins pushed his chest out and stuff. And that dog, they told me, would never live past, probably because he had hip dysplasia, at 15 weeks. And they're like, you'll be lucky if you have him for a year or two. And was like, okay, that's cool. And I advocated for him because he was also crypt orchid at the time when it came time to get his pins removed and stuff. And they're like, we don't want to spend the extra money. And I was like, oh yeah, you do want to do this, could advocate for him to make sure that he got what he all needed and stuff. And I ended up losing him when he was 15 years old. He died 5 months after my dad died.
Hmm.
And so the resilience of that dog, though, was amazing to watch how. And I always say, if I was a dog, I would probably be on the euthanasia list for biting, because of what people do. Like, the compassion that what a dog can forgive is just absolutely amazing to me. We had a case a few years back of a Doberman who came in. Somebody had clearly either zip tied his mouth shut because it was scarred around his mouth.
Yeah.
He was completely emaciated. He kind of walked like a staple because his back, he had been crated for so long. So his back was, and stuff. And we named him Magnum. And we spent months rehabilitating him, and he is living the most wonderful life. Every year on his adoption, his family brings him for us to see him
No.
again, to get to see him and stuff like that. But that dog had no reason in the world to trust a human ever again, after everything he had been through, and he was able to work his way through. And I think I gained some of my strength from those dogs when rehabilitating those dogs. And I just think to myself, if they can do it, you can do it.
Mm.
Um, if they can go back and they can trust again, you can do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably maybe you're going to get let down, but you'll figure out how to deal with it and you're going to move forward. And the best I can do for that dog now is to protect him so he never gets let down again.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been thousands of cases of
Absolutely.
stuff that you see come through that you just think like you're probably never going to make it, and then they do end up making it in the end. But I've also had hundreds of cases where you do get them to that point, you get them rehabilitated, and then one thing goes wrong and they end up having to be euthanized for
Mm.
like just randomly biting, or which you understand like why, but still you have to weigh, is they safe to put into the community, and stuff like that. And those ones break your heart
Yeah.
because the dog may be perfectly fine with you, but it's never going to be perfectly fine to leave, and it's never going to be perfectly fine to, and it's just, those ones just suck because it's like, if I maybe would have got to you sooner, we
Mm.
maybe could have fixed this problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to never do that though, because I can't change that. So I try to never be like, maybe if I just could have. I always just be like, I did what I could with what I had, and that's all I can work with. I can't go backwards because otherwise you'll be in the loony bin very
Yeah,
quick.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a ton of responsibility to put on your shoulders.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that you lost Trooper and your dad so close. And, that's, I mean, amazing to hear that a dog that was predicted to only live a short while lives a full, happy life. That's
Oh,
amazing.
he lived a great life too, that
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, he did. Yeah. He was the ambassador for the shelter. He went to all of our events and all the schools and stuff like that. He was a great ambassador for the shelter. I generally always own an ambassador for the shelter. So all my dogs work too. They have to go to work with me and they do behavioral work and all of that kind of stuff too. So it's not easy being one of my pets. Yeah. If you get chosen by me, you got the short stick.
Well, I'm sure it's enriching for them. So, um, when you were talking about being able to reflect on how a dog can be betrayed by a human and them being willing to trust again, I know you have your own experience of, I don't know if betrayal is a fair word or not, but having a,
It was.
it was,
Right.
yeah, so yeah, a betrayal of a dog and trying to figure out how to find your way back. So I don't, if you want to share some of that story.
So I had been taking care of a dog for 21 days. He had come into the shelter on a bite quarantine. He had come off of his bite quarantine after 10 days. And then typically what would happen in a situation like that is we reevaluate after the bite quarantine, because a lot of times bites can be very circumstantial. We don't really know what happened because we weren't there, sort of a thing. And so, and a lot of times when they come into for the bite quarantine for the first 10 days, they're completely shut down. So you can't get a good read on that dog anyway. And so this dog in particular, we were like, he just doesn't seem to be that dog. And he had apparently bitten somebody in the process of breaking up a dog fight in the home, is what the situation was. And he had bitten his owner or something like that, and didn't have a rabies vaccine, which is why he had to come in for bite quarantine and whatnot. So he got off of his 10-day quarantine, and we were kind of like working with him and stuff. And then we got to day about like 19, and we're like, there's some pretty high arousal issues here that are kind of concerning. He was great with other dogs though and stuff. And we're just like, the chances of being able to find a home for this dog are going to be pretty thin. Like, it's going to have to be that absolute unicorn home that understands, the dogs and, the behavior and stuff like that. And so we were like, maybe it would be best if we put him to sleep. So we had made the decision to put him to sleep on day 22. On day 21, like we do with every dog that we do make that decision for. We were out in the yard, walking the compound, playing, doing our stuff. We always have a really good time. We have cake and cookies and steaks and, all of that kind of stuff. And we were out playing, doing stuff in the yard. And he had peeked, seen a little dog through the fence, whatever, no big deal. I called him off of that little dog, and he turned on me and he just started attacking me. He jumped up and took a swipe at my face, and I pushed him down, and he grabbed a hold of my sweatshirt, and I was like, "Oh, cool, you want my sweatshirt? That's fine." So I started taking my sweatshirt off, and in that process he lost the joy of that. So he latched onto my bare arm.
Mm.
And we fought over my arm for a long time. His top canines and his bottom canines fully went into my arm, and then we played tug with it for a while. He tore open my arm. I ended up with just about 60 stitches total, some inside, some on the outside. I had a gash all the way down to the bone, that kind of stuff. I finally was able to get him off of my arm, and we're wrestling around, and he came in and he bit me in probably 20 other places, like it was in slow motion. I just couldn't get him to stop biting me. I was calling for help. Nobody could hear me because all the dogs were barking. The more I yelled, the more he was like, "This is so fun. We're having such a good time." And I'm like, "We're not having a good time though, bud. Like, I'm tired. I'm bleeding everywhere. Like, could you just please stop?" So I was finally able to manipulate him to get him behind a gate, but I wasn't able to get his head behind that gate. And so his head was out, and I was holding him back with the gate with my left hand, which was my arm I hadn't been bitten on. And I'm just like, "If you get out of here, you're probably going to kill me, because I can't get you to stop. Like, I just can't get you to stop. And I'm tired." And I was convinced I was bleeding to death at this point in time, because when you see your every like pieces of your body come out, you're like, "That's really not good," sort of a situation. And so I was like, "I'm just going to give this one last try." So I give him a swift kick, like to the chest, to get him to go back. Well, he grabbed a hold of my leg in the process, and he just started chomping on my leg. And I'm just like, "Okay, this isn't working out very well." So previous to that, he had got me down, tore my pants off, tore my shirt, the whole thing. His eyes went completely black.
Mm.
Like, and he could tell he just could not stop. Like, he just could not stop. He never growled. He never barked. He was just having a good time. Like, he was just having a good time. So there happened to be a shovel that was close by that I was able to grab with my arm that had been tore up. And I started just like what I thought was lightly, like just hitting him on the face, like just to get him off of me. Everything lined up really quick. And I was able to get him pushed back, get my leg out, get the gate closed and locked so I could get away to get help. From the time the attack started until I was able to get away from him was roughly 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
The funny thing about that is where our shelter is located, about 3,000 people go through that place a day, around that, like go by that place a day. During that 15 minutes, not one single person or car drove by, and you could see the whole thing from the road. And I'm just like, really? Like, nobody could mind their own business today? Like, everybody's minding their own business today. Like, the one day I actually need help. So I went in and had to call the ambulance and that kind of stuff. And I ended up being off work for 85 days total from the time, because I had, I think, 30 probably bite wounds all over my body. And it took a long time. Like, I still have no feeling from my wrist to my elbow and my arm. Luckily, I didn't lose any of my ability to use my hand and stuff like that. He tore my radial nerve twice in my arm. Things like that. So I'll have lasting lifelong nerve damage and stuff like that. But that's when, like, not even 24 hours after, the PTSD started having the horrible nightmares about the attack occurring again and stuff like that. And I said to my husband, I was like, "We got to do something like this. I can't." He's like, "You need to start therapy." So I started doing therapy right away. Like, within probably 10 days of the attack, I realized, like, you got a problem here. You need to start getting on top of this. So I was trying to heal physically, and then I knew I needed to start healing emotionally as well too, because I was like, I got to go back. Like, I have to, like, what does the next step look like for me after this now? Am I going to be able to go back? Am I going to be able to be comfortable around dogs? I happen to live very close to where the shelter is too. by design. I live literally probably like 20,000 feet from the shelter. So I can hear when the dogs are barking and stuff like that. So 2 days after the attack, I was at home. I could hear dogs barking. Well, I just started having a panic attack, which I've never had a panic attack in my life until this first one. And so I ended up calling up to the shelter. I'm like, what is going on? Why are the dogs barking like that? And they're like, we're just moving some donations around. But in my mind, that was the last thing I heard
Yeah.
while I was being attacked. So I was sure somebody was being murdered up there. Um, and so it was a long journey to be able to come back. I had a lot of physical therapy that I had to do because I had a lot of physical healing I needed to do, but then I had a lot of emotional healing I had to do as well too. I had to do a lot of like immersion therapy where like I had to go back to the scene of the crime as I called it. And just walking back into that compound and the emotions behind that and just stuff like that. It was a long journey. I started doing counseling weekly at that time, and it was during that time frame that I was like, oh, you have some other problems too, that you've got years of trauma that you've been holding on to that you need to get worked out or you're not ever going to be able to heal.
Mm.
And so my husband was a big proponent of me not going back to work. He was just like, I would prefer if you did a career change. He's like, I don't care what you do. That I don't want you to do. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I can't change. I can't. I was like, I need to figure out a way to still be able to do this. Um, for one thing, I was like, I don't want that to be what takes me out. I don't want that to be my defining moment.
Mm.
And I remember as we were driving to the hospital thinking to myself, I wonder if my career's over.
Mm.
Like just kind of like, cause didn't know what the extent of the damage was on my arm. I mean, I know I saw a lot of stuff I didn't want to see, um, you know, and I was just like, I wonder if I'm going to be able to go back and do this work again and stuff like that. And I just was like, I slowly worked through it with my therapist and she gave me a ton of tools. I do suffer now with like anxiety. It's not as bad as it is, but your mind is amazing. And I never realized how much your mind was actually tied into your actual body
Mm.
until this occurred. Cause I can tell you now, if I hear excessive barking, my arm starts to hurt right
Oh.
away. I have like my arm just starts to ache if I hear excessive barking sometimes. And it's not all barking. It's just certain dogs will get me. And I'm just like, oh God, like just please stop. And sometimes I have to literally remove myself from the situation because I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with this, sort of a thing. But I did a lot of work and a lot of soul searching. And I decided that I didn't want this attack to end my career. I wanted to use it as a platform. And I wanted to use this as a platform for our mental health, for one thing. And I wanted to use it as a platform for it's not all puppies and kitties, people. We're dealing with these dogs. We're dealing with these dogs who are dangerous. And you want to criticize on the backside because I put a dog to sleep for behavioral euthanasia. This is what they're capable of. At the end of the day, and this dog had been sweet, loving, sweet thing. He was just got so aroused, he just couldn't stop himself. And basically, one of my dog trainer friends was like, it's the epitome of somebody who is on heroin. And
Mm.
she said, I can guarantee you, if he could talk and you were to say, like, hey, what do you want to do before I put you to sleep? He's like, let's do that again. That was such a good time. I loved it. It was amazing. That was such a good rush. Sort of, so it wasn't that he was aggressive at
Mhm.
all. Like he wasn't. He just had some weird tendencies and it just ended up I'm thankful it was me and it wasn't somebody else. I'm a more heavier set girl, and so I was joking with the paramedics when they came in. I was like, it pays to be fat because it protects your organs, because when he was biting my stomach and stuff, like he couldn't get to any of my organs for that reason. And so I tell my doctor, I'm like, I'll eat those chips because it saved my life, just don't talk to me about that. But I was grateful it was me and it wasn't my coworker at the time, because I don't know if she would have been able to pull through it the way that I was able to pull through it. But I think that's was kind of it was a super defining moment in my career. And that's when it really became prevalent to me that we're not talking about these things, and we need to be talking about these things. We need to be educating people about these things, and we need to, like, we're not taking care of ourselves the way we need to, especially the shelter workers. And I didn't realize how bad I was until I started therapy, and then I was like, whoa, you've
Mm,
got a lot of things that you've been holding on to for a long time. I'm glad to say a year and a little bit later, I'm down to only therapy once a month, and I will always do therapy once a month for the rest of my life, just because I'm a true proponent that everybody should do it, just to have somebody to bounce stuff off with. And she keeps me in check too. Um, she's very good about, like, did you do this and this and this? Like, and stuff like that. But it was a long journey to be able to walk back in that door
yeah.
just to feel safe,
Yes.
just to feel safe. And that was the biggest thing, was convincing myself that I was safe. I know a lot of people think I'm absolutely insane because I did go back. I've had a ton of people tell me that. Like, they're just like, I don't understand why you would even ever go back. And I'm like, because it's just, this isn't about me.
Mm,
Yes, this is something that happened to me, but it also happened to everybody else who works in that facility as well too. They all witnessed the aftermath of it. Somebody spent 3 hours cleaning up my blood from outside. They all had to, they all got traumatized in the process as well too. And so it was just really important to me. I decided that I wanted to use it as a teaching tool. And if the more I can get my story out there, I the better off I feel like I can maybe make some changes, some safety changes as well too. There's a lot of stuff we get really lax professionally, and there's a lot of stupid crazy stuff that we do. Now I carry a taser
mm,
on.
mhm.
Like, that was one of my husband's things, is he's like, you need to carry a taser. And I was like, okay, that's fine. He's like, that's one of my conditions that you go back. Like, as I was being attacked, a taser wouldn't have helped me anyway, because it's on my right side, and that was where I made, maybe it would have, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just one of the things. All my staff now carries pepper spray as well too. There's just different protocols that are put in place now because of that attack. Like, all the kennel gates need to stay open now, went outside for this specific reason. One of the reasons why the attack was so long was because I had all my kennels closed
Mm,
outside, so I had nowhere to direct the dog to get away from him, sort of a situation. And so we just got very lax, and I think this was something that was just, I don't know. I think it happened to me for a reason, I think. And I think it was so that I would kind of maybe take that step back and be like, well, you need to do some stuff here to help yourself, because you're not doing so well, but
mm,
you're not recognizing it. You're just pushing forward and moving forward, and you need to start taking care of yourself.
right. Wow. I mean, that's an incredible story. I mean, I can't even imagine what that was like for you. But even in listening to you tell that story, it's interesting to hear your compassion in that story for the dog.
I
Really?
felt horrible for that dog. I cried so hard because they put him to sleep that same day, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was like they had to shoot him with a tranquilizer gun because it was just absolutely terrible. I remember as I was leaving for the hospital, he was just sitting on the picnic table in the pen I was able to get him in, and he was just sitting there, and my blood was all over him.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting there wagging his tail, like, I had so much fun. And then when I talked to them, the shelter staff, the next day, they're like, you beat him up pretty bad. And I was like, really?
Mm,
Like, and I felt just terrible about that. And it was one of my dog training friends was like, no, you don't need to feel bad about that. He had such a good time. Like, she was like, he would want to do that again in a heartbeat. So she's like, you did what you needed to do to stay alive. Like, and I had contemplated at the time too. I was like, maybe I should get his ashes back to keep. And my husband was like, absolutely not. Like, he was like, that dog is not coming in my house, because not only was it my trauma, it was his too.
yes.
He
Yeah.
lived with a lot of fears. Like, now, if I don't answer my phone the minute he sends me a text message, the panic alarms are off the
Yeah.
hook, and stuff like that. And So it's just, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff, but I did feel horrible for that dog for what I did to him.
Yeah.
I was, and when I told my mom that, my mom was like, nobody would understand why that. And I was like, I can't explain why. I said, she said, he almost killed you. And I was like, I know. And I was like, but I just feel really bad for him because I don't think he really wanted to. Like, it wasn't that he was out to get me. It was just, he just couldn't stop it. He just could not get himself to stop. Because I mean, I was like, I'll give you cookies. I was shoving cookies in his mouth as it was in my arm, and all kinds of stuff, like trying to convince him, talk him through it, just talk him down. And I just couldn't, I just couldn't do it. I was worried when I went back, it was going to cloud my decision making process. I was really worried when I went back, I would be just like, euthanize them all. If they look at you sideways, you just need to euthanize them. Thankfully, I have a pretty good checks and balances system, and it hasn't been like that at all. I've only had to make the decision a couple of times since I've gone back, and they've all been really good decisions,
Mm-hmm.
sort of a situation. But yeah, there was a lot of work that went into it. I 10 out of 10 don't recommend getting the mental health that check that way. I just take my advice and get help. Just
Don't wait for the crisis. Just get in there.
just don't do it the way I did it. I 10 out of 10 don't recommend it. It gets a bad Yelp review. It's not great.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your dark humor, frankly. I mean, but yeah, I mean, you're clearly a resilient person. Where do you think that resilience comes from in you? Like, where do you think?
Stubbornness. My mom and dad are both really resilient. And I I had a very normal childhood growing up. Like, my mom and dad just both worked really hard, and they installed that in all of my siblings and myself, and that's just the people that we are. You just don't give up. Like, there's just, you have to keep going. And that's how we were raised. No matter what happens, you just have to keep going. You can't give up. It's not an option.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of how my siblings and myself, have just done that in our adult lives too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes it's a curse though. Sometimes I'm like, cool guys, that was nice. Give me that curse.
Well, I mean, I guess that lends itself easily to this question, which is, yeah, what has this work done to teach you about your limits? What have you had to learn about your boundaries?
Oh, I'm horrible at boundaries. That is something my therapist is on me about all the time. I've had to learn that it's okay to set boundaries for myself, um, because I'm not great about it, and I will let people just be like, you need to do this, you need to do that. Okay, 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 okay. And so I've had to learn that it's okay for me to say no. And it's not going to be the end of the world if I say no, this can't happen or that can't happen, or, stuff like that. Um, this situation has helped me a ton with that. And I think that's because I did have to get the counseling. And so, um, and I find it oddly weird that as a society, we even need to push people to set boundaries for things, which has made me a better person too. As far as like, I'm a much better customer when I go places and stuff now too, because I'm like, well, what works for you? Like, let's talk about what works for you. Because I have people tell me all the time, well, we can do it during your lunch hour. It's not that big of a deal. Like, but it's my lunch hour.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
it kind of is a big deal to me if we do that, sort of a thing. Whereas in the past, and I will actually now say no, like, no, we're actually not doing that right now, because that is my lunch hour, so it needs to happen either this time or that time. Whereas in the past, I would have been like, okay, yeah, we can do that, sort of a situation. So there's been a lot of good things I've been able to take out of this, in just, but you have to be taught how to use those good things, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so if nobody's teaching you how to set those boundaries for yourself, then you just don't, like, because I never knew how to set them until my therapist started on me. And then now I know what I'm supposed to do. And my husband's really good about keeping me in check too, as far as like, this and this and this has been happening and it needs to stop, because you are really good about setting those boundaries. One of the things I'm terrible about is taking days off. Like, I'll be like, well, no, I could just run in and do that on my day off. Like, and it's like, okay, but no, like, you need to actually take your day off. It's supposed to be a day off, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I imagine living close to work.
Sucks sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it does, but it's also super great as well at other times.
Yeah,
It 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other sort of
exactly.
a situation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If people wanted to get involved in the rescue world, like what's some advice that you would give to them?
I would suggest volunteer, find a shelter that is of your beliefs, that does the things that you want to do, and start volunteering. Just kind of get your feet a little bit wet and see what you think. Everybody has this grand idea of like, I want to start a rescue. Why? There's a million of us that are established. Volunteer and help those of us who are established, because you have no idea what it costs.
Mm,
Um, there's a lot of people that turn into hoarders because they start out with great intentions. And I'm just like, if you just would have fostered for me, we wouldn't be taking 52 cats out of your house today.
yeah.
You could have just fostered, and you could have done your share, sort of a thing like that. So just really think about and get involved with the rescue so you can see actually how it's done, and see the back sides of things and stuff like that. That would be what I would highly recommend to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good and interesting point, right? That there are a lot of rescues, there are a lot of humane societies. I mean, I know the list of
Yeah,
them. There are a
yeah,
lot of them. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like you guys, the existing ones need more support.
yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you need the fosters, you need the volunteers.
We need
Obviously,
board members. We need the people that
yes.
raise the funds. Like, those are the things that we need.
Yeah.
Um, and a good shelter is open to new ideas. So if you are a volunteer and you have some different ideas, bring that to the executive director, bring that to the board of directors. A shelter should always be changing with the times. I ask a lot of questions because, like, when I go to other shelters and stuff, I'll be like, why? Just out of curiosity, like, why do you do it this way? And a lot of times nobody can tell me why. Like, one of the big ones is a lot of places use um, newspaper in their cat kennels. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, that's disgusting. Like, why do you guys do that? Like, to me, I have no concept of why they do that, because we don't do that.
Uh-huh.
And nobody can tell me why. Because it's just something we started 30 years ago. And so we've just been doing it.
It's just
And so, like, that's one of the things when you do come in to volunteer, ask, like, why do you guys do it this way? Like, why do you guys, like, why? And see what the people say, because it's super telling as to if that's a rescue that's like actually has a scientific reason why. Educate yourself. Like, that's a big portion of it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some really important points in there. And I think that is also a really nice thing to reflect on too about, getting new people to volunteer, to foster, to be a part of the boards is it's a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, times are changing, needs are changing, and having fresh perspectives can be really helpful and part of that evolving process.
Well, I'm even guilty of it because I've been doing it for so long. Like, I get caught in things and I'm just like, okay, why are you still doing it like this? Like, this is the way we did it in 2000. Like, what is no? Like, we need to move forward with the times. And so it's like, it's really easy to do and if the answer is because this is the way we've always done it, then you need to examine why that is. And maybe there's something new that we could be doing. I always challenge people that, because not everybody can do the shelter work, get on the board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
On the boards of directors. Those are the people that the executive director is answering to. Those are the people that are responsible for the policies and procedures, stuff like that. You can make a huge impact just by sitting on the board of directors if you're really an active member of that board of directors. You
Yeah.
can make a huge impact in the community. You can do, like, the board of directors is supposed to be doing all the fundraising. That makes a huge difference to a shelters if they have funds to run these programs. Everybody wants these programs, but nobody knows how to pay for them. And so that's where it comes from, is like, become a board of directors.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to work in the shelter because it breaks your heart, which I understand, but you really love animals,
Yeah.
get on a board of directors.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. That's such a great avenue for people, like you said, who are worried that they can't foster because they'll get too attached, or worry they can't be in the shelters because it's too heartbreaking. Like there are other avenues, ways to help and support.
Well, and even just social media, sharing the posts on social media.
Yeah.
The majority of fundraising now is done on social media. People are lazy. They don't want to have to go places and do things a lot of times. Like I always find like with my donors, if I ask for specific items, like, oh, probably 4 years ago, we asked for laundry pods, the specific kind of laundry pod. And oh my God, we have enough laundry pods still at the shelter. I counted it out the other day. I could do 7 loads of laundry for the next 7 years and never run out of laundry pods. Like stuff like that, like people, and that makes a huge impact because we don't have to buy that now.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
you beat inflation, which is amazing.
and then like just donations of stuff like that as well too. Like people don't think it's overly helpful to drop off that gallon of bleach, but it is.
Yeah.
Because then I don't have to buy it. And that's something I can use that money to do vaccines on a cat.
Yeah.
And that's the way we always look at it too. Like I always look at how many cats can I spay with this?
Yeah. Well, it seems like people do better when they're told exactly what's needed from them, right? I think it's hard for people to kind of guess or like know.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is understandable because I mean, I know personally, like we end up with a lot of stuff like we don't need this. Like what we're never gonna use this. Like I just don't know. Like if you would have just asked, I would ask for garbage bags. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
which I know that sounds like a stupid thing, but that's something we use multiples of every day and they're expensive. So, just stuff like that, laundry pods, dishwasher pods. Well, I don't need laundry
I was
pods.
gonna say you don't need the
No,
whole.
I don't need laundry pods. Please, God, stop with the laundry pods. But just stuff like that. That's how you can be involved without being involved. And I mean the social media stuff, just sharing the post, that's free. Like that doesn't cost. That's a little bit of your time, sitting at home on your couch while you're watching TV,
Exactly.
stuff like that. So there's stuff that people can do without really having to do, and I don't think they realize what a big impact that is.
Exactly. Yeah. I
And
love
be kind. That's the other thing too. People just need to be kind.
it.
Be kind to the people who are actually doing the work. Don't be critical. If you have questions, reach out and ask the person.
Yeah.
I'm an open book. But if you come at me hardcore online, you can guarantee I'm going to shut down. I will say I'm welcome to talk to you. We can sit down and have a conversation, but I'm not going to air stuff publicly. Just talk to the people and find there's two sides to every story. Um, Learn the stories before you make your judgments.
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
Yeah. That's a fair ask to make. So, yeah. Well, I so appreciate your openness and your perspective in all of this, and always a fan of people who are strong proponents of therapy. So thanks for plugging that, and kudos to your therapist.
I'm sure people get sick and tired of me saying it now. They're probably like, "Oh my God, shut up, lady. We don't."
Well, they say you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, but you can make them thirsty. So you
Yeah.
never know. You never know the impact you're making. You just plant the seed.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So if people wanted to help you guys specifically at Columbia Humane Society, you've obviously touched on some of those aspects, but what can people do to support your organization?
If you visit our website at columbiahumane.com, you can look, there's like the donation links. Of course, we always need money. You can sponsor events. You can, volunteer your time. There's information about volunteering, fostering, that kind of stuff. That's how you can be involved with us. Following us on social media, we have an Instagram and a Facebook page. It's just Columbia Humane. Um, and also, we're working on a TikTok page as well too, but it all takes time. So just following us on those things, involving yourself in the community, just involving yourself with different things, showing up at the fundraisers, stuff like that. That's all we ask, is just a little support. We do a ton of little fundraisers because we feel they're more effective than doing, a dinner and auction and stuff like that. So we do a ton of like bingos and stuff like that. So if you have stuff around your house that you think you can donate as a prize for that, reach out to us because we'd love it to do that. Just different things like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Um, and do you serve mostly just that Columbia County or do you like what's your what is your reach?
So we generally only will take animals, pardon me, from within Columbia County
Mhm.
because the need is so great within Columbia County right now. In years past, we have done transport programs from all over the world. We brought in dogs from South Korea, Israel, stuff like that. Once COVID hit, we started to get a problem at home again. And we're like, okay, we need to serve at home. We can't help from outside the community at this time. 50% of our adopters, however, are from outside of Columbia County.
Oh, interesting.
And so, yeah, so we adopt all over, thanks to social media, stuff like that. So we try to impact, though, the animals in Columbia County the most. We're trying to work more with retention, with keeping pets in homes, because it's not really my goal to take your pet. Like, if we can keep it in your house, let's do that. I would rather that, and save my space for an animal who is actually homeless, who may be going to get put to sleep with animal control because there's nowhere for that animal to go. So a lot of times we're really super selective with our owner surrenders as well too. We don't take a ton of owner surrenders because our space needs to be reserved for animals who don't have homes, not for animals who are inconveniencing you currently. So we'll go different avenues to help you rehome your pets. We'll do courtesy postings, stuff like that. We have you bring your dogs in for evaluations. We'll do play groups with them, that kind of stuff. So if you do need to rehome, there's a bunch of different options we have to help you with that besides just dropping your dog off at the shelter.
Yeah.
And don't tell me you're going to donate your dog to me because that'll make me. It's not a donation.
That's not the type of donation you're accepting.
Yeah. Like, I want to donate my dog to you. Like, okay, first of all, that's a cost. That's not a donation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, we try to, like I said, we try to work really closely with animal control to help them because they have no outlets. Well, they have some other rescues they work with as well too.
Yeah.
But because that's where we do the majority of our fundraising, we try to stay within Columbia County.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, that's just another emphasis on that social media to be active and watching out for what you guys are posting, but also feeling empowered to contact you guys and seek support or get resources to understand, yeah, how we can keep animals in households and stop kind of this flow.
Cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, very good. Well, again, Lisa, I'm so appreciative of your time today. And thank you for the work that you're doing with your staff too to support them. That's just huge. And I'm sure that helps them sustain their work with the animals as well. So appreciate you deeply. And thanks for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again to Lisa Beggio for sharing her story. And if you were moved by this episode, share with a friend, follow, subscribe, or leave a review. And until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.paws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.